Hello to you fine people, this is Jeff with Comic Book Canon, and I'm here to tell you about an amazing promotion we are running for the next 4 weeks. That's right, June 4th to June 28th, you could win a 9.8 slab just by entering Fresh from the Comic Shop, courtesy of the amazing app Whatnot. They are a cross between the live video platform of Twitch and the trusted selling platform of eBay. Here are the rules to enter. You must have a Whatnot account. The link is below, and signing up gets you $3 off of your first purchase. You must follow Comic Book Canon on Whatnot. And then, guys, it's the same rules we have every week for Fresh from the Comic Shop. Upload your fresh gets to Instagram and tag Comic Book Canon, also using the hashtag FFTCS. Once again, that hashtag is FFTCS. It's that simple. And you are submitted to win a 9.8 slab. That's right, this is running from June 4th to June 28th, 4 weeks. Now, we do not accept DMs on Instagram. We do not accept stories as submissions either, so be careful of that. And if this goes well, if this promotion goes well, Whatnot will continue on giving out 9.8 slabs each and every week. So guys, it's on you. Have fun with this. Sign up, get us your fresh gets each and every week, and you will be submitted to win a 9.8 slab. Now, enjoy your Canon video.
The top 10 hottest comics of the week based off of cover prices data. That is right. We are talking data. Cover Price releases a top 10 hottest comics of the week on a Monday. Our show is live on Friday. What we like to do is look at this as a stock index or what have you. Look at all these, the top 10 books, and then Chris takes the 3 most interesting books off of that list each week and dissects them, breaks it down, and tells you why they're interesting and what he thinks overall about them. So before we get into Chris's 3 picks of the week, we're going to get into the top 10 hottest comics of the week. And obviously we want Roger's opinion as well. He's a very opinionated person, and we'd like to hear what he has to say. Top 10 hottest comics of the week are, here we go. We at number 10, we have X-Men 53, the first appearance of Onslaught. Man, I read why this book is hot, and now I can't even remember, Roger. I don't know if you remember, but it is... Onslaught's coming back, I believe, in some way, shape, or form in a current storyline, so people are specking on this book. At number 9, we have Marvel Comics Presents 117, the first Wolverine versus Venom. Pretty sweet Sam Keith cover as well. At number 8 is Hardcore number 1, the second print. But we saw, I cannot remember who had that 9.8 Hardcore. Great timing from Fresh from the Comic Shop. Number 7, Infamous Iron Man number 1, first Doom as Iron Man and the first Tony Stark AI. I'm sorry, I had a burp there. At number 6, we have Captain America number 16, the first Cynthia Schmidt as Sin, Red Skull's daughter. At number 5, we have Bitterroot number 13, Sanford Green Beat Street variant. Bitterroot, a lot of great things going on with that as well. At number 4, we have Seasons Beating, the Marco I can never pronounce his last name, but he's a great artist. His variant. There's a lot of going on with this, and there's not much content other than it's a cool cover. Not much content in the guts of the book. Number 3 is Witches number 1. Number 2 is Superman 10 Cent Adventure, the first appearance of a different version of Supergirl, CRL, which a lot of people are speculating that she will be that version of Supergirl in The Flash. And at number 1, we have the regular the cover A, Hardcore number 1. Quite an interesting list this week, Chris. I'm sure you're going to get into a lot of things as to why. Raj, what do you think about this list, this top 10 list?
I don't recognize it for nothing, man.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of books like these are out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, what makes a book like Witches all of a sudden be in the top 10 again?
I'll tell you, this is why.
Options.
Scott Snyder tweeted that he's done with the script for Witches, but we don't know where it is in the process of development. We don't even know if it's picked up. I mean, maybe there's something out there years ago that they picked up.
And there's hardcore, what is this hardcore?
Hardcore is that's picked up. That's a Skybound book, a Robert Kirkman book that I do believe is optioned. Yes.
So these no names are just because they've been optioned and people are jumping on them before they blow up too much.
Exactly. Iron Man, the infamous Iron Man is hot because of the Tony Stark AI, because everybody's assuming that Robert Downey Jr. will come back for the Ironheart show. I mean, but Wolverine versus Venom, 117, Marvel Comics, I don't know. Onslaught, I don't really know. Anyways, but Chris knows. Chris knows a lot. Chris, get into it. And me and Roger.
Yeah,
your theory, not on your theories, but on why people are just rushing out to get this stuff. Go for it.
Right. I do want to say, I personally have stayed away. I always give a big shout out to independent books. Jeff, we've been doing this for over a year now. We know that if there's any type of talk about something being optioned with any type of independent book, it's most likely going to show up on this list. So kudos to that. But for me, it's kind of taking me away from picking those type of books because it's almost redundant.
Real quick, I do want to address one thing that Doug Bratton says, hey, Raj, #3 Men in the Basement.
What's up,
Dan
my man?
brings up a good question. I want to reiterate this. How do you base this top 10? We don't. It's cover price basis off of sales data, off of eBay, Mercari, a variety of other
shop.
sites. I'm not sure, but it's data on sales.
Yep.
And this data is not accurate too. It's skewed because somebody could be paying $50 for some 50-cent book out of nowhere, and all of a sudden that book is hot because it's the price is right. So it's not a perfect system, but and Chris and I opinion, it's one of the best ways to track how hot books are is with this top 10 list and these sales. So that answered the question. Wanted to get that out.
Absolutely, and it shows you guys how we as a market, as consumers on the market, react to things, right? We're never going to get away to where we track the actual sales of books. Why? Because nobody's tracking actual LCS stores for one, right? So, you're never going to have an accurate top 10 list when it comes to actual sales data, but you have enough here to where we can look at how we're reacting on the market. And so looking at my top 3 picks today, again, I try to go with different things that are interesting to me. All right, so my number 3 pick on the list was X-Men number 53, the first full appearance of Onslaught. This is a really fun pick for me because Onslaught recently reappeared in Way of X number 2. All right, now, before I talk about the book, let's look at the numbers. 130% increase in sales with a CGC high 9.8, $265. Decent money for a 90s book, mid-90s. This is a book that made it to the top list because of the comic books, right? The character showed up in a new X-Men book. Everyone's rushing back to say, ooh, Onslaught. Maybe it's new characters saying, who is this Onslaught? I want to get the first appearance. Maybe it's older collectors like us that are like, oh man, I remember collecting Onslaught in the 90s. I'm seeing him in Way of X. I'm going to go back and grab that first appearance. It's always exciting to me when books get hot because they're specific to what's going on currently in the comic books. And look, it's, call it speculation, call it this and that, but it shows that people at least have their eyes and ears and head to what's going on in comic books right now. And it's not just about what's being optioned, what's going on in the movies and so forth. There's a lot of different collectors in this hobbies, in it for different reasons, and we're looking at different factors. And that's why I had to talk about this book, because I think it's absolutely cool.
I love it when a book is hot because of another comic.
Yep.
It's one thing when it's optioned. That's people who don't know comics jumping on something because they saw something on TV, or if a movie comes out, a new character, a new TV show. A lot of those sales are from people who don't know anything about comics, but they think that they can make money off of that speculation and buying that comic. But when you have a comic that's hot because that character showed up in another comic, that means people read that book.
Yep.
I was just about to say that. I'm glad you brought that up. But that it shows strength in the market as well when things like this happen. And we're seeing this a lot more frequently than not, because there are a lot of new readers that have come into this hobby in the past, over a year because of the pandemic. And it's really nice to see something like this. So Raj, 100% on what you said. I'm hoping we disagree on something soon. Chris, what
we did at the beginning of the show, but I
gotta pull up. I saw some stuff about Sony and how you'll never trust. That's fair. That's fair. We can only hope. But Chris, what is your second most interesting pick from this list?
All right. Second pick. Keeping it Marvel here. Captain America, number 16. And man, is this volume 6? It's hard to keep track of which volumes it is. But this is the first appearance of Cynthia Schmidt, the daughter of Red Skull, as Sin. Now, this book has been getting hot because and you know what, I had a rough week and I meant to do some research on this, but there's speculation that she could be the villain in Captain America 4. Now, where that speculation's coming from, I have no idea. There's nothing that's been confirmed at all. We know almost nothing about Captain America 4 except for who's going to be directing and writing it. And of course, that Anthony Mackie is the new Cap, right? But check this out. 441% increase in sales and a CGC 9.8. $600.
Jeez.
Wow. Okay. Now, here's the thing. I'm all about speculation. I will not say that I'm disagreeing with Roger, because Roger did bring up a good point on the last book about sometimes it's people that, just see something on the TV show. I won't sit and say, Roger, I like to look at it as a broader perspective of things. I can't just sit and say that it's people not wanting to, that don't read comics or just want to make money. I see it as the fact that people are just in tune to speculation. So in my opinion, what makes these books hot when there's speculation is that everyone jumps on it. The readers, the collectors, the people that want to invest, the people that want to speculate and flip. But once you get to a certain number too, the speculators kind of fall off because there's almost no wiggle room for them to make any money. So when a book like this hits a 9.8 and hits a $600 sale, you're like, man, somebody that wanted that book paid $600 for it. It's absolutely crazy. And I'm all for speculation, but it goes to show. And you can look at all the variables and you can take it or leave it, but people are putting money in comic books. This is a modern book that, $600 for 9.8. That's madness just on some speculation. It's crazy.
That's the market.
Yep.
That's the market these days. And we're seeing crazy, crazy prices going here that you never would have imagined. And I don't know, it's kind of exciting. Raj, what do you think?
Yeah, even for books that just a year ago were peanuts. Mm-hmm. Look at the price of a X-Men. Of course, I'm going to forget the number of First Bishop.
Mm-hmm.
They go for like $500-$600 right now, 9.8. A year ago, you could have bought that for less than $100.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and it's how about Spawn #1? Those are throwaway books a year or two ago. Now they're same thing, $400, $500, $600. People are paying for these things.
It's incredible. So this market's so unpredictable. We'll see what starts happening when people are able to spend their money elsewhere, when things start opening up with the pandemic. So we'll see. A lot of people think that a bubble's going to burst. A lot of people think that this is going to continue on.
Well, the thing is that there are books that people want because it's the drop off from a 9.8 to a 9.6 on these books is incredible. So, it's someone saying, I want the first appearance of Bishop, but if I'm going to pay for it, I want a 9.8.
Yeah.
And that's another thing to really, that I've talked about this before. There's a market for 9.8s right now, and it's booming. And everyone's, you look at, we got 90s books, modern books. Oh, print run. No. Look at the census and look at how small of a number there are of 9.8 books on the census. Like this book right here. I guarantee you that the demand is extremely exceeding the supply of these books in 9.8s. Hey, plus it's a nice fully white cover, probably a bit harder to find in 9.8s. You got to keep in mind the 9.8 market is a market in and of itself, and people are willing to pay that money. And what's the basic supply and demand? When demand exceeds supply, especially at this type of rate, that price is going to continue to go up because people are going to be willing to say, there's only a few out there. I want it. What do I need to pay to get it?
Yeah, I agree. It's the 9.8 thing is real right now. Mm-hmm. You look at Amazing Spider-Man 252, a 9.8's, up almost $3,000 at this point. A 9.6 is like $600, $900 or something like that.
That's crazy.
People are going to pay good money for a book. They want a 9.8.
Yeah, that's a crazy disparity. By the way, this goes along what we were talking about before. Miguel Grassa Marvel does seem to release new content on comics based on future movie content. That's so true because Kevin Feige runs the comic book. I mean, he's head of that whole division, so he's overseeing that. I don't know when he has time in the day to get into the nitty gritty, but I'm sure he's like, hey, down there, push this character, please.
Yeah.
Give them their own series. So keep an eye on that, guys. Definitely keep an eye on what characters Marvel is pushing because it's likely you may see them on the big screen. All right, Chris, this has been fascinating, but this is it right here. Your last book of the week. The most interesting pick off of this list. What do you got?
Yeah, very, very interesting. Let me get some water in.
Okay, get it in.
This is picked a DC book.
Ooh, DC? What show is this?
I know we haven't had a DC book in a while.
Are you sure this is comic book canon?
All right. Yeah. We're sure. We're here. It's us. All right. My number one pick. Superman 10-Cent Adventures #1. All right. Cool cover. I like that cover there. Here it is with this book, guys. This is the first appearance of the version of Supergirl known as Sorel. It is official that she has been cast for the CW's The Flash show. The actress has been cast as well. Now, this book came out in 2003. All right. It's a modern book. Look at what this book did this last week. 487% increase in sales. That's probably because nobody was buying it before this week. And a high raw sold for $25. I mean, not an extreme amount of money. Obviously, this book, it goes, there's no like CGCs on the market being sold or anything like that because probably, a week ago, nobody was sending this book off to CGC or CBCS. Here's my thing and why I picked this. And you guys know I picked stuff because it's interesting, not because, it's the hottest book and you need to go out and buy it, right? I think it's very interesting because one, guess what? A CW show brought this book up. And I don't know about you guys, but between me and you, as someone who loved the first couple of seasons of Arrow, as somebody who loved the first couple of seasons of The Flash, the CW DC shows have gotten so horribly bad that, I mean, I still try to watch them, but it's hard. I can't even pay attention to them. So it's really interesting that this book still gains steam. So, kind of going back to, the points that Roger brought up about the first book, let's kind of play hypotheticals here on this one. What is driving the popularity of this book? Are people actually watching CW shows and they want to, be interested about the character in the comic book? Maybe some people. Or are we just keeping our ears to news and we hear casting calls and all this stuff when it comes to all these things? And it's either, this is speculators or it's the investors or the hobbyists that just feel like they have to have the FOMO because there's been an announcement of a casting in a live action. My guess, it's still all of the above. But the thing with this book specifically, and I'm going to make kind of a crystal ball prediction on this. I know that the high raw being sold for $25 isn't that much money. I am going to predict that maybe a couple months from now or after this season of The Flash, or who knows what happens if the character is going to be around next season. I don't know. This book is going to be back in the bargain bins. So, it's just one of those things that I'm all about the connectiveness of folks that watch the movies and the TV shows and want to learn about these characters and go to the comic books. I'm all about the films and the TV shows, bringing folks our age that can see these comic book characters that we grew up with on the pages be brought to life on screen. And I'm all about a healthy amount of FOMO. when it comes to wanting to spec and getting like I do my top 10s on my channel. The top 10 Doctor Strange spec books, ones that aren't really on people's radar. Maybe the Darkhold's coming in that Doctor Strange Volume 2, number 60, which is like the origin of the Darkhold and how it has to do with vampires. We know that vampires are coming in the MCU. We just seen the Darkhold in WandaVision. Okay, let's go get a copy. I'm all for that stuff. And then when we see him on screen, we're like, yes, and look, I got my copy. You showed up. I'm all for it. But this is just one of those situations where I don't think CW, in whatever they're doing with their characters on their shows, is going to hold any weight. So that's why I said we don't do the top 10 because we want to talk about what's hot for you to be on your app and, go on eBay and buy everything we're talking about. We're here to talk about why they're interesting. And I'll tell you what, this book is absolutely interesting. I don't care about it. I don't think I own it. And I don't ever care to own it unless maybe it was, as the title sent, a 10-cent adventure that I would pay 10 cents for. That's just me.
You're muted.
I'm done.
I'm muted because my dogs are snoring, but I would love Roger's take on this.
Yeah, I agree. I think that we've seen and I completely agree with the first 1 to 4 seasons of every show WB did. They were great. The writing was great. And then it was just like second verse, same as the first.
Yeah.
They had one bad guy for the entire season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the same thing happened over and over again. All of a sudden, like Arrow, all of a sudden everybody's a superhero.
Yeah.
Like everybody who puts on a mask is a superhero. And I think that I think that hurt some of the newer WB shows because I didn't watch Stargirl for that reason. I'm so sick and tired of Flash. I'm sick and tired of Arrow. I don't know where they're going with this. I watched Supergirl. That got stupid, but I think to your point, those characters didn't blow up. They went from $1 book to a $25 book. But I think the same thing is said true about the DC movies. I mean, look at the first appearance of Doomsday.
Yep.
I mean, what was that? A $50 book after he showed up in the movie? If you got the fifth print or whatever was the hard one to find, and that's a $10 book again. Like, that's supposed to be a huge character, and they even brought him back in Krypton, the TV show, which I don't know where that is because that's one of my favorite shows to come out in the last
that was a good show.
Decade. And I absolutely loved it. And they brought him back there, and it still did nothing. Like DC is in general, even the first appearance of Darkseid is an affordable book right now. After all the hoopla with the Snyder Cut, still an affordable book to get. So I think DC in general. So I agree with you. That book, once whatever happens in the TV show happens, that's going to be a 10-cent book again.
Look, Chris and I talk about this on the regular about DC. There is no strategy. There's no leadership to instill. There's no leadership that can guide the creatives to create. They're meddling. They're contradicting each other. They're making absolutely no sense
because their shows and everything goes in their own direction.
Not only their shows, their movies too.
That's what I mean. The movies and the shows, there's no continuity.
The executives say they contradict each other. They're making no. Chris and I went off on a rant a couple months ago on what Hamada was saying about something that completely contradicted what they said in DC fandom. It's garbage. And I'll be honest, Kamikaze brings up an amazing point. There's no true guidance with DC movie and TV. My honest opinion. And that's Chris and I talk about this each and every week, that we're actually offended at how these characters have been treated, how this universe has been treated.
Because growing up, those are my favorite characters.
Yes.
And they've done nothing in the movies. It's been such a disappointment.
And just, I mean, there's been a few decent ones here and there, but it's been a majority disappointment and just straight garbage. Garbage.
Let me bring in Star Wars as an example of how the live action, right, and being able to take those type of properties in the connectivity of it all that Marvel's done so successful, right? Look at what Disney has been doing with Star Wars now, even with the animated stuff. And the connectivity matters because we can watch Mandalorian, and then we got Ahsoka out of it. We know she's coming.
Yeah.
We know we're getting a Obi-Wan show where Obi-Wan is obviously connected to it's all in the same universe. But even Clone Wars, even the Bad Batch. These are animated shows that exist within, they're telling stories of filling the holes in the same universe that's connected that we love. And
Absolutely.
And look at the hype around the Star Wars comic books. There's something there when it all can be connected. We get pulled into the characters even more. We get pulled into the universe even more. And it does something to us as comic book fans. And when you have a property and a franchise like Star Wars that started in the movies and then went to comic books, yet we are still having this interlocking connectedness between the comics and the movie universe. It speaks to something, and DC just cannot do it. They haven't. And honestly, at this point, at least maybe in our lifetimes, I don't know if they ever will.
And to kind of jump on that point with Star Wars. So I don't know if I've become a big Star Wars guy, and I've gone back and I've started reading like the novels. I just finished the Thrawn trilogy and all that stuff. I read The Light of the Jedi before I started reading the High Republic books, which actually helps the comics make more sense, even though you don't need it. But the first episode of The Bad Batch, when I went to work, the first thing we all talked about around the cooler was that they saw Ezra Bridger as a kid. I mean, Kanan as a little kid.
That was awesome.
The way they crossed the two shows instantly, and everybody recognized how genius that was, that you saw Kanan and you found out why he was all by himself and what happened until then. And I watched all the Clone Wars. I've gone back and watched the last season of Clone Wars 3 times. I've watched Rebels. I'm a huge Sabine and Ahsoka fan. I cannot wait to see the two of them together in a show. I just had a commission done with the two of them on the cover. But to have that all kind of, you put the Bad Batch and you're like, wow, they just had Kanan on there. That's amazing. Like, I didn't even realize where in the continuity of Star Wars the Bad Batch was until that first episode when they actually showed Kanan and showed that the Bad Batch saved him. And that's what actually there was their demise as far as being kicked out, like being called traitors or whatever. Sorry, spoiler if you hadn't seen them, but we are on like episode 4 or 5, so get with it. But you're right, that continuity is genius. The way they intertwined them in every show. There's an intertwine between Rebels and Clone Wars and the Bad Batch that if you saw those, you're like, holy crap! I remember when that happened in the other show.
They're using these kind of tools in their back pocket to kind of not only inform you as like, hey, here's the timeline, by the way, but do it in a creative way that entertains you. That's like, shit, there's Kanan, right? It's incredible. And that's why I like the connectivity. I truly enjoy it. And I know bottom tier collector, I think he used to be the bearded one. Not everything needs to be turned into a movie franchise. There's beauty in things that stand alone, like Nolan Batman. We don't need a connected universe for DC movies to be good. It doesn't need to happen to be good, but it is.
They need to make a good movie.
Yeah, but
they need a good movie to start with. But
right,
we're all comic book fans here. We grew up with these connected universes, with these characters just literally jumping from title to title. That's something that, again, we take for granted with the MCU. How hard this is to do. What Kevin Feige and all of the creatives have done there with I say this every week, with the logistics of production. Not only hiring actors that have the availability to be able to interconnect it and sign on to these films, but getting the producers, the writers, all of the creatives intertwined together to create this plan has never been done before, and it's not easy. And DC just assumed that these characters are so lovable, anybody will come and check this shit out, right? So let's just try and create a connected universe.
Wet toilet paper, throw it against the wall, and see if it sticks.
They didn't know how hard it really was, and the proof is in the pudding.
To bottom tier's point here, though, there's a reason about what I'm talking about, though. I agree 100% with your statement, bottom tier. You don't need a connected universe to make a good Batman movie. You don't need a connected universe to make a good Spider-Man movie. You don't need a connected universe to make a good Captain America movie, and so forth. But the reason that comic book lovers are going back to comic books as much as they are for these characters is directly correlated to the success of a successful connected universe. That's my point. So look at the Nolan trilogy. What did that do? What did that do? And I know, say for example, the Nolan trilogy came out post MCU, right? Which it did. I mean, at least one of the films, and then one of them came out right when it was getting started. But if it got started like after we were some years deep into the MCU, maybe there would have been a different impact because we already saw how the MCU was impacting collectors to get back to the books. But Ra's al Ghul's first appearance didn't skyrocket because we saw Liam Neeson play him in a movie. Bane's first appearance, and by that time there was talk, and I remember there was talk, oh, Bane, but it didn't do anything to Bane's much to Bane's first appearance that's noticeable. Those films still didn't really impact the comic book market like the MCU connected universe has, or even, in the more recent past, the Star Wars connected universe under the Disney and MCU Plus umbrella has done over the last 2 years. So there's something to say with how comic book fans connect, pun intended, to a connected cinematic universe.
Yeah, and on top of that, if DC came out and made movies that were not connected whatsoever and were made well, I'd be okay with that. But they did connect them. We're not connecting them. They did that. When they brought together the Justice League and they had all these, they're the ones who said, well, Marvel did it. We have to do it. If they came out and made an Aquaman, a Wonder Woman, a Batman, a Superman, and none of those were connected and none of those characters were connected, and they gave us a good villain, which is what DC sucks at. You need a good villain to make a good movie. If you gave us a good villain with a good storyline, I don't need to see Wonder Woman's boyfriend in parachute pants. We're gonna consume that and we're gonna like it. But DC said, we're going to make these movies and we are going to connect them. And they did it terribly.